Hi friend, come on in. We're going to be going over the second episode of my mobile dog grooming van conversion. Every video that I have watched on van conversions have shown the person going in, unscrewing everything, and taking everything out. What they didn't show was the small stuff. I had to look up a tutorial on how to use a socket set, and honestly it was kind of a hit to my pride. But then after that, I had to remove these seatbelt bolts. And honestly, it's kind of reassuring that these were so difficult to take out. It kind of makes you feel a little bit better about being in the back of a van. But even still, there was quite a lot of questionable language and a whole lot of struggling. Before we jump into the work, I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Everyone loves talking about their dreams. Everyone loves talking about starting a business even. They love imagining what life would look like when everything comes together. The freedom, the flexibility, the finished product. But what I've started realizing is the most interesting part isn't actually the destination. It's the learning. A few weeks ago, I couldn't have told you how to use a socket set. I have never removed seatbelt bolts before. I had never even gutted the inside of a vehicle, and honestly, I did not know where to start. But that's what's been so exciting about this project. Every time I come on here, I'm learning something new. Sometimes it's from a YouTube tutorial. Sometimes it's from making a mistake. Sometimes it's from spending way too long figuring out something that probably shouldn't have taken 10 minutes. But every single thing I learn is one more thing that I didn't know yesterday. And that's the part I want as well. Not just the finished van, not just the before and after transformation, even though that would be freaking awesome. I want to show the process of becoming the person capable of building it. The mistakes, the lessons, the wins, the moments where something just finally clicks. I didn't fully show the freak out of the first time using the grinder, but when I got this tool, I was so intimidated. It looked like a fire hazard just waiting to happen, and the last thing I wanted to do was catch the van on fire. Can you imagine? I finally get this dream van that I've been wanting for years, and I just burned the whole thing down. I had attempted to use it on the seats when I got them previously removed, but I'll be honest, I chickened out and I took the van to Firestone and they removed them for me. They also only charged me 20 bucks, which was super nice of them. But when I got the van back, I realized there's going to be a lot more things that I am going to have to cut out, and I can't just bring the van to Firestone every single time I had to use the grinder. So I just had to get brave, and I took a deep breath and I just set to it. I went slow and I took my time, and eventually I gained more confidence, and thank goodness I did, because I would use the grinder a lot when taking out the L-tracks later. This part was actually kind of satisfying. Most of the screws came out pretty easy on the walls, and I just kept thinking that if the rest of the project was going to go this smooth, then I had absolutely nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, that's not what happened, but a girl can dream, I suppose. The seatbelts continue to be a bit of a struggle, so I had to make an additional trip to AutoZone, but I got a special bit to get these out. It's called a Torx bit, and I ended up just buying a whole set of them, and after getting the right tool, they came out fairly easily. Okay, so the L-tracks, the villain of today's episode. A video I had found had told me to use a drill bit dipped in olive oil and drill the rivets through the floor. This did not work, unfortunately, or maybe my drill just wasn't strong enough to handle the pressure. Every time I would get through half of one, my drill would die, and it just took far too long for the battery to recharge. It just really wasn't doable. So I tried a different way. Screw extractors! They broke in 2 minutes. So next thing to try, maybe someone drills from the bottom and someone else holds it from the top. So I brought in Mr. Husband, and that didn't work either. Between the two of us, they just were not budging. It's like someone had welded them on there with how rusty it was. I had sprayed them with PB Blaster, and that didn't do anything either. This was the point where self-doubt really started creeping in. I put the camera away and I just sat there a while. After 2 weeks of fighting the same L track, I had managed to remove exactly 2 bolts. 2. And when you're already tired, it's amazing how quickly your mind can turn a small setback into a much larger story. I started telling myself I had gotten in over my head, that maybe I wasn't capable of doing something like this. I kept thinking about how someone with experience probably could have had these bolts out in a day, while I was still battling the same one weeks later. The progress felt invisible. The dream suddenly felt a lot farther away than when it had when I had first bought the van. For a little while, I stopped seeing everything I had accomplished, and I just started focusing on everything I didn't know. And that's a very dangerous place to be in when you're trying to build something you've never built before. I would walk past the van every single day and I would think, maybe I should work on it today. But I wouldn't. And days went by, and then weeks, and then eventually 2 whole months passed and I hadn't done a single thing to the van. I thought about selling it and starting over. I looked up trailers and just everything that I could think of that wasn't quite my dream, but it would just fill in that gap somehow. I recently started reading Atomic Habits, and one idea from that book really stuck with me. People often say they don't have time to work on their goals. And honestly, I used to say that too. The book talks about how successful people don't necessarily find time, they make time. And that kind of hit me hard, because between work, life, responsibilities, and just trying to be a functioning adult, there never seems to be enough time. There will always be something else demanding your attention. If I wait until I have plenty of free time to build this van, it will never happen. So instead, I tried to show up consistently. I started working on the van just 20 minutes a day. I would literally set a timer on my phone and then stop the second it would go off. I would go out there every single day, even if I was tired, even if I was unmotivated, because those little efforts I knew would eventually add up. And that's exactly what happened, because after what felt like an eternity, and I'm not even kidding, this took 2 months of negotiating with myself before I finally took myself up out of the dirt and said, girl, just do this. 2 months. Someone with better tools and probably a much better headspace would have finished getting these bolts out in a week tops, but not me. I had to go all moody Judy and drown in self-apathy. But I'm glad I continued, because I know now how to get past that mental headspace. I almost gave up, and it was a lack of confidence that was preventing me from finishing this, not just these stupid bolts. But boy, am I glad I didn't sell it, because I never would have been able to gain confidence in myself if proving myself right every single time I told myself I couldn't do it. If you're struggling to do something you don't feel capable of doing, I want you to know something. The people who seem confident now weren't born knowing how to do any of this. They were just as confused. They made mistakes. They got frustrated, and they probably questioned themselves more times than what they'd ever admit. The difference isn't if they were more talented or more qualified, it's just that they kept going long enough to learn. And you don't know how to do everything before you start. You just have to be willing to learn the next thing, and then the next thing. And eventually one day you'll look back and realize the one thing that felt impossible has become second nature. Not because it was easy, but because you didn't quit.